two individuals who in one moment are trying to kill each other.
I've had it hidden in the attic. I think I need to put it somewhere safer than that.
I've seen them pretty expensive before, but not that much.
Seriously?
Armed forces uniforms have always held a deep historical significance, but few tell a story as compelling as the one brought in by a guest at an appraisal event. Tucked away for generations, this Civil War uniform belonged to his great-grandfather, a Union soldier from New York who had fought in some of the war's deadliest battles. The appraiser quickly identified key details. The I on the bottom confirmed infantry service, while the 108 on the hat revealed his regiment, the 108th. A unit that had fought at Antietam, Gettysburg, and Petersburg. But the biggest revelation came from the eagle insignia on the shoulder straps, marking him as a colonel. Even more impressively, he had been awarded the honorary rank of brigadier general for his extraordinary service. The uniform was a rare gem, completely intact.
We have his pants. The rank of colonel is fairly high up the food chain. So he had two hats. We have his gauntlets, shoulder straps, and we have his beautiful uniform.
Unlike many restored collections, this set remained untouched, its authenticity shining through.
So many times you see stuff that's been patched together and brought back to life. This one has more character than a Mark Twain novel.
Then came the stunning valuation.
If you were going to insure this as a group, it's something that I would insure for $25,000.
Goodness.
I mean, it's spectacular.
But as he took in the weight of the moment, it was clear the uniform's true worth had nothing to do with money. This wasn't merely fabric and brass. It represented a bond to a courageous man who had faced the front lines of history, a testament to his sacrifice, strength, and the life he had experienced. What seemed like an ordinary Civil War-era rifle turned out to be an exceptionally rare find. A guest brought in a sharp, slanting breech naval rifle, uncertain of its significance. Manufactured in 1856 by Christian Sharps, this .54 caliber firearm was one of only 263 ever made, making it a prized collector's piece.
In 1856, they're known as a Sharps slanting breech naval rifle.
One of its most distinctive features was an attachment point beneath the barrel. The guest had suspected it might be for a bayonet, although an antique dealer had questioned its size. The appraiser confirmed that it was designed for a massive saber bayonet, which could double as a melee weapon or be mounted onto the rifle.
But when you put it on there, the weight of it would almost tilt you over. That's one of the neat characteristics of this gun.
Another remarkable detail lay hidden behind a small, often missing door on the side of the rifle. When opened, it revealed a compartment for a unique firing mechanism. Edward Maynard's tape primer system was an early innovation that fed percussion caps automatically, much like a cap gun. Adding to the rifle's historical value, a barely noticeable naval anchor was stamped on the barrel, confirming its use by the Navy. Perhaps most impressive was the rifle's untouched condition.
It's so small. I love the flavor. I'm so proud you never cleaned this up. It's got a knee-deep patina. It's just beautiful.
The guest had never attempted to restore or polish it, leaving its deep, rich patina intact, a feature collector's prize.
And it would feed the roll of caps underneath the hammer every time you cocked it back. And watch this. It still works.
Due to its rarity, historical significance, and excellent condition, the appraiser assessed its insurance value highly.
If you're going to insure it, I would say that we would need to insure it for at least $7,500.
All right.
What initially appeared to be a collection of historical documents revealed itself as an incredible naval treasure, the original commissions of Stephen Decatur, a renowned figure in U.S. naval history. These documents passed down through his descendants were entrusted to a former naval officer, adding a personal touch to their significance. The collection featured Decatur's midshipman's warrant from 1798, his lieutenant's commission from 1799, and his captain's commission from 1804, each one incredibly rare due to the small number of naval officers at that time. Notably, both of the early commissions were signed by President John Adams, while the captain's commission was issued by President Thomas Jefferson after Decatur's audacious raid in Tripoli in 1804, where he led a secret mission to destroy the captured USS Philadelphia, an act celebrated as one of the most daring in naval history. At just 25 years old, he became the youngest captain in U.S. Navy history. Beyond his military accomplishments, Decatur was admired as a brilliant strategist and an honorable leader, earning the respect of his men and the nation.
In 1820, Stephen Decatur's involved in a duel against James Barron, who had been his mentor. They're both wounded in the duel. Unfortunately, Stephen Decatur's wounded mortally.
And sadly, his life was cut short after this duel in 1820. Today, several cities carry his name, reflecting his enduring legacy. Giving their historical significance and pristine preservation, the appraiser valued these documents generously.
I would be very comfortable placing an insurance value on these in the range of $150,000 to $200,000.
Wow. Okay.
A seemingly ordinary German bayonet turned out to be a rare and unexpected historical artifact.
What you have here is a bayonet that would not have been anywhere near Normandy or World War II battles.
Initially believed to be a standard S-98 Seitengewehr bayonet, commonly used by German forces between 1898 and 1905, its true significance was only revealed upon closer inspection. Unlike typical models, this long, slender bayonet remained in exceptional condition with an intact scabbard.
However, this model continued in use and in limited production up and through World War I.
It is an uncommon find, as these were prone to breaking. The real surprise came from the detailed Kaiserlich imperial engraving on the blade, marking it as part of the Kaiserlich Marine 2nd Sea Battalion, Germany's elite naval infantry. These troops were crucial in World War I, fighting in major battles like Ypres, the Somme, and Antwerp against the British forces. Further distinguishing this piece was the absence of an issue date and military acceptance mark.
The company WKC, we can see their manufacturer's mark on the ricasso, made this for private purchase.
Given its rarity, pristine condition, and connection to an elite German unit, this bayonet holds significant value in the collector's market.
In the market today, this would have a retail sales value of $1,200 to $1,500. Very good.
What if I told you that a seemingly ordinary rifle, once stored under a bed, turned out to be an incredibly rare and well-preserved piece of Civil War history? This is a Star Arms Company cavalry carbine produced in the late stages of the American Civil War. Unlike traditional muzzle-loading rifles of its time, this rifle represents a critical turning point in military technology, a breech-loading design that allowed for quicker reloading with self-contained metallic cartridges, a feature that would define modern firearms.
It's a breech-loading carbine, which means you load it from the breech rather than from the muzzle, like a lot of the guns during the Civil War period.
Contracted by the Union Army, production of this model began in March 1865, just 1 month before the war ended. As a result, none of these carbines were ever issued in combat. Out of 5,000 units manufactured, many were later sold as surplus and saw action in the Franco-Prussian War. But this particular example bears no French arsenal markings, suggesting it remained in pristine, unused condition. With most surviving examples showing heavy wear, well-preserved pieces like this are extremely rare. The exceptional condition of this rifle places its auction value much higher.
And I think that realistically, in an auction setting, this gun's going to sell between $2,500 and $3,500.
What if I told you that two swords, one Confederate, one Union, could tell a remarkable story of war, humanity, and reconciliation? This historical collection features a Confederate officer's sword and a Union Army Model 1850 foot officer's sword, both carrying immense historical significance. The Confederate sword, complete with its rare New Orleans-made spoon and wreath belt buckle, belonged to a North Carolina captain of the 35th Regiment, who captured the Union sword during the Battle of Petersburg in 1864. The Union sword, a privately purchased European-made blade, was originally carried by a Michigan sharpshooters captain, who was taken prisoner during the battle. The most compelling aspect of this collection, however, is the story behind it. After the battle, the Confederate captain, despite suffering a gunshot wound to the hand, showed kindness to his captured opponent, allowing him to bathe in the river years later.
The captain said, I haven't taken a bath in a month, and I know I'm going to go to this internment camp, and, could I take a bath? He said, sure, go ahead. They walked back to the lines.
An astonishing turn of events reunited the two men when the Confederate officer, recalling their encounter, reached out through the Detroit Free Press to return the captured sword. The Union captain responded with a heartfelt letter, insisting that his former adversary keep the sword as a symbol of honor and mutual respect. Their unlikely friendship continued for the rest of their lives, transcending the war that once divided them.
And it's nice to be able to see two individuals who, in one moment, are trying to kill each other.
That's right.
While the original letters have been lost, carefully preserved transcriptions document this incredible story of conflict and reconciliation. As a fully documented Civil War artifact set, this collection is an exceptional piece of history.
Retail value for this group as presented here today would be between $20,000 and $25,000.
That's surprising, but great. I mean, we aren't looking, obviously, to part with it, but that's good to know.
The Sharps and Hankins rifle presented here is far more than just another Civil War-era firearm manufactured in 1862. This .52 caliber rifle represents one of the first collaborative models produced by Sharps and Hankins, a company known for its innovative firearm designs. While approximately 8,000 of these rifles were made, this particular piece stands alone as the very first, bearing the serial number 1 on multiple parts, confirming its authenticity. Several distinctive features set this rifle apart. It boasts factory engraving, indicating it was a special production piece, and a 32 3/4 inch barrel, which was later shortened in standard models due to practical considerations. Unlike the more common 24-inch Navy model or 19-inch cavalry model, this rifle retains its original longer barrel, making it a rare and historically significant find. Another notable feature is its innovative sliding barrel loading mechanism.
We can pick it up. The whole barrel slides forward to let you put the cartridge in. You load the cartridge and then back. A lot easier than the way a regular Sharps worked.
While effective in controlled settings, it proved less reliable for soldiers on horseback, leading to the company to revert to a drop block design in subsequent models.
And did you ever notice the little lever on the back?
I didn't know what that was for.
Despite its aged patina, this rifle remains in remarkable condition, retaining elements often lost to time, such as the small safety lever screw.
I feel that the gun today would retail for about $10,000. And to me, it's more historically significant than that, but that's where it would bring in today's market.
It's pretty good.
This is not only a flintlock rifle with rich historical significance, but also a direct link to the legacy of Eli Whitney, the inventor of the cotton gin. Crafted by the Blake brothers, nephews of Whitney, this rifle was produced between 1826 and 1830 as part of their contract to manufacture firearms for the government after Whitney's passing in 1825.
Made 15,000 of these guns from 1826 to 1830.
Featuring matching dates on both the lock plate and barrel, this is a first-year production rifle. After 1830, they switched back to the Whitney name, but this rifle carries the Blake mark and stands as testament to the craftsmanship of the era. In its original flintlock configuration with a .69 caliber barrel, this piece is a standout example of early American firearms.
This gun would probably bring about $2,500 on the retail market.
My brother will definitely take more of an interest in it.
What started as a thoughtful gesture between families has become a remarkable piece of history. While the exact origin and history of the pistols are unclear, the guest suspects they might be dueling pistols made in England. Upon inspection, the appraiser reveals that the pistols, though housed in an English case from the early 19th century, are actually German-made, with the mark Krauss in Würzburg dating them to the mid-19th century.
That said, too, is that they're actually not dueling pistols.
Oh.
They're typical target pistols.
The pistols are identified as target pistols, not dueling pistols. Unlike traditional dueling pistols, which were smoothbore to allow the bullet to wobble in flight, a practice considered more gentlemanly in duels, these pistols feature rifling in the barrel, which would have helped the bullet travel straighter for target shooting.
Now, in your traditional English pistols, dueling pistols, they were smoothbore.
Okay.
And one of the reasons is that when they were in a duel, they didn't want necessarily the bullet to go straight.
Okay.
Additionally, the pistols have a small adjustable nut behind the sight, a typical feature for fine-tuning the sight for different ranges.
I would imagine worth, at auction, about $5,000 to $7,000.
Oh, okay.
With the case, you may be able to add another $1,000.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
What if a simple family gift turned out to be a priceless piece of history? That's exactly what happened when a Civil War-era pass, passed down through generations, was handed to a family member by their uncle in 1975.
Why did he pick you to gift this item to?
Because I was the youngest in the family and he had given other people other things, so he just gave it to me.
At first, it may have seemed like a simple keepsake, but upon closer inspection, it revealed itself to be a rare and invaluable piece of history. The document is signed by President Abraham Lincoln and dated April 20th, 1864, granting Miss E. Sharp, a widow, permission to travel through Union lines to visit her family in Norfolk, Virginia.
During the Civil War, the Confederacy considered themselves a separate country.
This small act of kindness from the president during the turbulent years of the Civil War provides a fascinating glimpse into Lincoln's personal involvement in decisions beyond his military strategy. What makes this item even more extraordinary is that the entire pass is written in Lincoln's own hand, adding an intimate, personal touch to the historical context. In a time when autographs could be mass-produced, this piece tells a unique story, deeply connected to the sacrifices and struggles of the era. This artifact's historical significance is far greater than just a signature.
This is in context. This tells a story, and consequently, it has more gravitas and historical interest than a signature would. It would be 20 to 30,000.
A lot more than I thought.
A helmet once used as a flower pot turned out to be a priceless relic of World War II. For years, Captain James Earl Arnold's M1 helmet sat in his grandmother's living room, dismissed as family lore.
And one of the first things she said was that he was the first naval officer to land on Normandy.
Decades later, on the 75th anniversary of the invasion, the guest investigated, only to confirm his grandmother's astonishing stories were true. The appraiser identifies the helmet as belonging to Captain James Earl Arnold, the naval officer in charge at Utah Beach on D-Day. This early production M1 helmet, with its front seam brim, carries distinct markings. NOIC, Naval Officer in Charge on the front, Captain Arnold on the side, and USN, United States Navy backside.
We have an early production World War II M1 helmet. The seam for the brim that goes around the edge of the helmet is in the front. At the very end, that's moved to the back.
Most compelling of all is a wartime photograph showing Captain Arnold wearing this very helmet on June 6, 1944. Still donning his invasion lifebelt, a definitive connection to one of the most pivotal battles in history. The appraiser calls the helmet a unicorn in World War II collecting, a rare and irreplaceable artifact. Its estimated value.
If I was cataloging this for an auction, I would put an estimate on the item between $30,000 and $40,000.
Wow. I can't believe that.
A remarkable display of relics from the Hindenburg disaster of May 6, 1937. These pieces were inherited from his father, a career naval officer who was stationed at Lakehurst, New Jersey on the day of the crash.
He was very proud of the fact that he was there and able to help the survivors. These are some of the artifacts that he had collected.
The collection includes official commendations awarded to his father for his heroic actions, issued by the governor of New Jersey, the U.S. Navy, and even the German government. One of the standout pieces is a photograph of the Hindenburg, personally signed by all surviving crew members as a token of appreciation. Beyond the documents, the artifacts include a charred piece of the Hindenburg's outer skin, a burnt fragment of the flag that once flew aboard the doomed airship, and other incredibly rare relics. While smaller fragments of the Hindenburg occasionally appear on the market, such as bits of the superstructure or melted dining utensils, this collection is one of the most comprehensive and well-preserved ever seen.
So at auction, I would put an estimate of $10,000 to $15,000 on it.
For insurance purposes, the value could be placed between $20,000 and $25,000.
Great to start with, but I'm surprised. I really had no idea, but it's wonderful.
Yeah.
This shotgun is not just a weapon, it's a piece of Civil War history with an ironclad legacy. Captured by Charles Porter Mattox just 3 days before the Confederate surrender at Appomattox, this firearm was once among the belongings of Confederate General James Longstreet, one of Robert E. Lee's most trusted commanders. Mattox, a battle-hardened officer from Maine, served with the 17th Maine Infantry before transferring to the elite Bird and Sharpshooters, one of the most feared units of the war. He fought through some of the war's bloodiest battles, endured capture, and returned just in time to help lead a decisive charge at Sailor's Creek, where Union forces secured over 300 Confederate wagons, including Longstreet's personal effects. This particular shotgun, a high-quality Mortimer double barrel, stands apart from ordinary firearms of the time.
The Mortimer family was in the gun business for a very long time, based in London. They also had offices in Edinburgh.
Manufactured in London between 1840 and 1854, it features intricate banknote scroll engraving on the locks, tang, and butt plate, showcasing the craftsmanship reserved for only the most distinguished owners. While similar guns without provenance might fetch $1,500 to $2,000, the documented history behind this shotgun elevates it to an entirely different level.
I wouldn't be surprised if in the right setting, because of the provenance, it approached seven figures. Any other directly owned by Longstreet type items that are available.
What if a sword could tell a story of survival in the Civil War? For one family, a collection of swords from Captain John Hetherington, a bird and sharpshooter, has been passed down through generations. A member of bird and sharpshooters, Hetherington was wounded at the Battle of Jerusalem Plank Road, where a bullet struck his hand but was stopped by the hilt of his sword. The bullet left a piece lodged in his hand, causing him to leave the army, but the sword saved his life.
So when we did a little digging into his history, we find that he enlists as a private. He's promoted to sergeant. He was recommended specifically to be elevated to captain of the company by Berdan himself, which is wonderful.
This collection includes 3 swords, each with a unique history. The first is a standard private purchase sword from Germany, basic but still an officer's weapon. Then there's the 1850 staff and field sword, an official piece despite not being issued by regulation, showing how adaptable and resourceful Hetherington was. The real gem, though, is the 1850 Foot officer's sword, the one that saved his life. It's worn and scarred by the bullet that nearly took him down, giving this artifact a chilling yet incredible backstory. With the swords, there's also a framed history of Hetherington's service and a photograph from after the war, adding context to the collection. As one of the original bird and sharpshooters, Hetherington's items are especially valuable to collectors.
I would put an estimate of $15,000 to $20,000.
What if a pistol could share the tales of the officers who wielded it during the formative years of a young nation? A guest brought in what he thought was a 13 Colonies-era flintlock pistol, passed down from his father-in-law. The gun had been discovered in the Chicago area back in the 1930s, but no one knew how much it was originally bought for. The appraiser took one look and had some exciting news.
They went into business sometime right around the end of the Revolution, circa 1785 to the 1820s. Based on the style of this gun, I'd say it's probably 1790. It could be as late as 18.
Even without a maker's mark, the pistol's beautifully decorated butt cap told the story. It featured a folk-art eagle surrounded by 13 stars, a signature design of Halbach and Sons of Baltimore, a respected gunmaker from 1785 to the 1820s. Halbach didn't produce weapons for the U.S. military, but officers at the time had to buy their own gear.
It's a military-style gun, but Halbach never actually received any specific contracts to produce for the U.S. military.
This pistol was exactly the kind of sidearm an officer would have chosen. Sleek, well-crafted, and built for battle. One more rare feature: the shell-shaped carving behind the tang, a classic Halbach touch. Only 300 to 500 of these pistols were ever made, making this a real collector's piece. There were a couple of missing parts, the fore-end cap and the ramrod, but that's pretty common for a gun this old. Most importantly, it was still in its original untouched condition, exactly how serious collectors like to find them. Then came the big moment. How much was it worth?
Auction market, this gun is going to bring somewhere in the $4,000 to $6,000 range.
A true piece of early American history, this flintlock pistol wasn't just a weapon. It was a story, a relic from a time when officers carried their own sidearms into battle. This cannon isn't merely a relic, it's a forgotten piece of history that once traveled the rivers of early America. Found in a backyard in Boulder, Colorado, it had been buried for centuries until a man named Harry unearthed it. When he passed away in the late 1990s, his wife passed it along to a family member, unknowingly gifting them a rare Spanish colonial swivel gun from the late 17th to early 18th century.
I think this cannon is a Spanish colonial, and it dates to the late 17th century, early 18th century.
According to the appraiser, this type of small, maneuverable cannon was designed for use on keelboats, vessels the Spanish used to navigate the twisting rivers of the Great Plains. These expeditions often required explorers to haul their boats, and everything in them, over land, to reach the next waterway. It's likely that at some point the crew had to lighten their load, leaving this cannon behind, where it remained hidden for centuries. What makes this piece truly remarkable? It's incredibly rare. The appraiser, a seasoned expert, admitted that in all his years in the business, he had never seen one before. Given its historical significance and condition, he placed a conservative auction estimate.
At auction, I would conservatively put an estimate of $8,000 to $12,000 on it.
A weapon of war, a means of exploration, and now an unexpected family heirloom, this Spanish colonial cannon serves as a striking reminder of history, resonating with the echoes of an empire's quest into the unknown. This isn't just any old gun, it's a piece of history. This Colt 45 belonged to the first police chief of Crawford, Nebraska back in the 1880s. More than just a weapon, it was a symbol of law and order in the untamed West. Along with the gun, there's a rare old photograph showing the sheriff in his uniform, badge proudly displayed. The revolver itself is a Colt single-action 45 with a 5.5-inch barrel engraved by Kuno Helfricht, one of Colt's most famous engravers. Even after all these years, much of the fine detailing remains.
For an historical weapon, we like to see use, and this shows a lot of use.
A factory letter confirms its history, showing that it was shipped in 1885 to Hartley and Graham, a major gun dealer in New York. While it originally had hard rubber grips, it now features custom pearl grips, decorated with a steer head on one side and the sheriff's initials on the other, most likely changed before it was ever sold. Though the grips have some damage, this does little to affect its value. The owner guessed it might be worth a few $100s and was shocked by the price reveal.
We could sell it in our gallery for $25,000.
You're kidding.
No, serious.
That's hard to believe.
What if a ceremonial sword could tell the story of a man who not only helped shape history, but also held a legacy in the heart of the American Civil War? Meet a remarkable artifact that once belonged to General Max Einstein, a key figure in the Philadelphia Artillery Brigade, later to become the consul to Bavaria. It's more than just a gift, it's a symbol of respect from the men he led, engraved with the words "To General Max Einstein."
And it was presented at the time also by the governor of Pennsylvania and Simon Cameron, who eventually became Lincoln's first Secretary of War.
Crafted by Ames Manufacturing, known for their top-quality swords, this piece stands out with its silver handle, intricate floral designs, and eagles on the crossguard and pommel cap, truly the best of Ames' work. Accompanying the sword is a rare 1861 certificate confirming Einstein's appointment as consul to Bavaria, signed by Lincoln's Secretary of War. The ink is bold and the document remains in excellent condition, making it a valuable piece of history. This sword and certificate have been preserved in the Einstein family for years, connecting generations to a defining moment in both American and European history. Presenting an estimate, the appraiser said,
"So I'd insure it for $15,000.
It's been hanging on a wall for years and years.
Autographs not only ink a name onto paper, but also freeze a moment in time. Rare and meticulously curated, this Civil War autograph collection stands as a unique piece of folk art. Compiled during and after the war, it preserves signatures from some of the era's most influential figures, displayed alongside photographs and personal correspondence. Among its highlights, autographs from Union leaders Ulysses S. Grant and William Tecumseh Sherman appear carefully placed beneath their portraits. Adding historical depth, signatures from abolitionists Frederick Douglass and Booker T. Washington make for a significant and rare inclusion.
He was one of the most important people in the anti-slavery movement. Your ancestor being a Caucasian, collecting African-American signatures was an important thing in this time frame.
Representing both sides of the conflict, Confederate leaders such as President Jefferson Davis and General Robert E. Lee are also featured, with a letter from Lee's secretary acknowledging the high demand for his signature.
So he not only collected Union autographs, he also collected Confederate autographs. And we have the nice business card size signature of Jefferson Davis.
Exceptionally rare, the autograph of Confederate officer John Hunt Morgan holds added significance, as Morgan once captured the collector's ancestor during the war. Documenting this event, a written account titled "A Day with General Morgan" accompanies the signature. Driven by dedication and persistence, the collector obtained many of these autographs through direct correspondence. More than a mere scrapbook, this collection offers a compelling glimpse into personal and national history. While asserting the item's condition, the appraiser marveled at its craftsmanship and said,
I would want to insure this somewhere between $75,000 and $100,000.
Wow.
Horns carried more than gunpowder. They held the scars of war and the hands of history. These two powder horns, treasured family heirlooms, have passed down through generations, each carrying a story of the past. Their origins trace back to pre-Revolutionary War upstate New York. First horn, once carried by Daniel Hayden of Marlborough, Massachusetts, dated 1758.
Wonderful soldier figures carved on here, really naive and crude, very nice.
Crafted from cow horn, meticulously spoke-shaved, etched with a penknife, and inked, it showcased remarkable precision. Every groove and filed edge spoke of a skilled artisan, though the maker's identity remained unknown. The second horn belonged to William Churchill of Plymouth, Massachusetts. It stood as a tangible relic of Revolutionary War service. Military records confirmed Churchill's enlistment, further solidifying its historical weight. As the appraiser inspected the item's condition, he stated,
I would put an auction estimate for each horn at between $8,000 and $12,000.
Pistols are not just artifacts, they are symbols of history, adventure, and craftsmanship. Some guests revealed that their father, a gun collector, purchased the pistol at a gun show in Ohio around 1960. At the time, the guest was just 10 years old. Immediately, the guest was captivated by the weapon, associating it with pirates, the Barbary Coast, and the Lawrence of Arabia. After the father's passing, the guest inherited the pistol, developing a deep admiration for it. According to the appraiser, the pistol is a North African artifact from the second half of the 18th century. It is characterized by red coral inlays within silver, and red coral is a defining feature of North African craftsmanship.
Pistols can be mounted with horn, ivory, other precious metals, stones, and that's actually what defines this pistol as North African, is the fact that they use the red coral.
Oh, okay.
In addition, gold accents on the lock and Arabic script on the tang likely mark the maker's name or a date. While the pistol had been restored, the appraiser noted that the restoration would not significantly affect its value. However, polishing the silver could reduce its worth. Moreover, the appraiser provided historical insight. He connected the pistol to Barbary Coast pirates who preyed on American ships following the country's independence. While reviewing the condition of the item, the appraiser noted and said,
Would bring probably about $5,000 to $7,000 in today's
That's
collector's
good. I can do that. I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. That's great.
Guns with a story are far more than just weapons. They're living pieces of history. Manufactured in Hartford, Connecticut, this .36 caliber model 1851 stands as a rare treasure among the 200,000 produced. What truly sets this pistol apart is Seth Kinman's personal touch, making it a one-of-a-kind artifact. Modified for his rugged lifestyle, Kinman trimmed the hammer to prevent accidental discharge, showcasing his practicality and ingenuity. Crafted with skill, he also fashioned a custom blade sight from bone or horn, enhancing the weapon's functionality. The engraved back strap proudly bears Kinman's name and President Buchanan's, marking its distinguished origin. This piece is more than a relic. It's a testament to frontier life and adventurous spirit. Worn and weathered, it tells the story of Kinman's role as a scout and provider during turbulent times. The modifications and markings cement its historical significance, adding immense value to its legacy. Far from just another Colt, this gun carries a deep connection to California's gold rush era. As the appraiser assessed the item's condition, he remarked,
This is a gun that in today's world should be insured for about $50,000.
Wow.
Guns have long been at the forefront of technological advancement, shaping the course of history through innovation and engineering breakthroughs. Revolutionizing firearms technology, the U.S. Model 1819 Hall rifle introduced groundbreaking advancements in the early 19th century. Unlike the standard flintlock, muzzle-loading, smooth-bore weapons of its time, this rifle featured a rifled bore for superior accuracy. A breech-loading mechanism further set it apart, allowing for significantly faster reloading compared to traditional muzzle loaders. Designed by John Hall, this firearm played a pivotal role in the American Industrial Revolution. The U.S. government tasked Hall with rifle production at Harper's Ferry. Produced in 1834 during the second manufacturing run, this particular rifle remains in its original flintlock configuration, a feature that enhances its value. Despite minor condition issues such as a missing top jaw and screw, along with a common structural crack, its historical integrity remains intact. The inclusion of its original bayonet, designed for universal interchangeability among Hall rifles, further elevates its worth. The appraiser, recognizing the item's condition, commented,
Gun on its own in a retail setting is going to sell for somewhere between $2,500 and $3,000.
Oh, okay.
It's not every day that a Civil War-era sword of this caliber appears, but this one is truly something special. A magnificent statue with a presentation sword, it was gifted in July 1864 to Lieutenant Louis Berwith by his Louisiana friends as a token of their esteem. The sword's craftsmanship is exceptional, though not adorned with jewels like some of the most extravagant examples. It boasts intricate detailing and an elegant design. Berwith's story is just as remarkable. A young German immigrant, he arrived in the United States as a child and later enlisted in the 30th Missouri Infantry, a Union regiment known as the Shamrock Regiment due to its largely Irish composition. Despite being an outsider in more ways than one, Beerwith distinguished himself enough to receive such a prestigious gift, making his history all the more intriguing. The sword itself is a masterpiece of its time. Manufactured in Germany and retailed by Schuyler, Hartley and Graham, one of the premier suppliers of military arms, it features exquisite etching along the blade. Though some of that detail has faded over time, the sword's artistry remains undeniable.
It has this beautiful blade, which it has some condition issues. The blade isn't as sharp, the etching isn't as sharp as you want.
At the auction, its value is estimated with the potential for an even higher price in better condition.
At auction, I would estimate that this sword would be worth $10,000 to $15,000.
Wow. Great.
And
While some minor wear, including a missing sword extension, slightly affects its worth, its historical significance and craftsmanship still make it a treasure. This isn't just any tomahawk, it's a true frontier treasure with a fascinating history. Passed down through generations, it originally came from a lady who traveled from Philadelphia, bringing this remarkable piece of Americana with her.
It originally came, I understand, a lady came from Philadelphia and married into the family and brought that with her.
It was gifted to the owner's grandmother and stored away in a closet for years, but this tomahawk is far more than just an heirloom. It's an extraordinary artifact. Crafted between 1780 and 1790, this frontiersman tomahawk was made by a skilled gunsmith, possibly in Pennsylvania or Virginia. The intricacy of the craftsmanship reflects the era's frontier spirit, likely belonging to a soldier, perhaps even a fur trader. What truly sets it apart is the early Federal Eagle design and a silver medallion engraved with GW, suggesting a possible connection to George Washington himself.
We can think it was George Washington that might have given this tomahawk to somebody whose initials are JH.
The initials JH could link it to notable 18th century soldiers like Josiah Harmer or John Hardin, both key figures in the post-revolutionary period. The tomahawk's handle is made from curly maple, a beautiful wood that adds to its distinct character. While some pieces have worn down over time, the silver mouthpiece was lost due to its owner's youthful antics. The core of the weapon remains intact, making it an incredibly rare find. In fact, such a well-preserved piece of history is almost unheard of, and this tomahawk is a national treasure. The appraiser valued that piece, and the guest was stunned by it.
I would ask $150,000. I think it's worth every bit of that.
My God.
It's just a wonderful piece of Americana.
Wow, I'm stunned.
Well,
a piece like this doesn't just hold a story, it tells history, and it's something few are lucky enough to own. This rifle is no ordinary piece of history. It's a true gem from the late 18th century, and its story is just as remarkable as its craftsmanship. Originally gifted as a wedding present in 1926 by a friend who was a gun collector, it was eventually passed down to the current owner. It was told to be carried by a British soldier during the Revolutionary War, though the full details remain a bit of a mystery. The rifle itself is a masterpiece, crafted by Christian Beck, a gunsmith from Lebanon County, Pennsylvania, who worked in the late 1700s and early 1800s. The most incredible thing about it is that it's in untouched original condition. Most rifles from this period were worn out and converted to newer ignition systems, but this one has never been altered, making it incredibly rare.
it's just a remarkable rifle made by an expert gunsmith, and I'm so happy that
The craftsmanship is stunning, with beautiful raised carvings that highlight the skill of its maker, along with the original lock still intact, despite a missing spring. The appraiser is astounded by its quality and history, estimating the rifle's worth.
this would bring between $18,000 and $25,000.
That's amazing.
So get it out of the closet.
Yes, sir, I will.
It's truly a national treasure, and the appraiser has one piece of advice for the owner: get it out of the closet and put it on display for everyone to admire. Imagine holding a piece of history in your hands. Two incredible revolvers that have not only withstood the test of time, but also kept their original beauty and craftsmanship intact. These guns were made by the Star Arms Company, a New York-based manufacturer known for its innovations in the 1850s.
The Star Arms Company was located in New York, and we've got on one side of the frame, we'll have the Star mark. Okay. And on the other, we'll have the Star's patent.
Patented in 1856, they were part of a government contract for the Union Army, adding to their historical significance. What makes these revolvers truly stand out is their rare condition. While most Star revolvers are worn and faded, these have retained their vibrant bluing and case colors, with smooth, fluid action that's almost unheard of for guns of this age. Their pristine condition hints at the care they received over the years, something collectors rarely get the chance to see. These guns were designed as self-cocking revolvers, a novel feature at the time.
Actually a small secondary trigger. All right. And that releases it. It was state-of-the-art for the time.
Unlike traditional double-action revolvers that fire with a simple pull of the trigger, the Star model requires a secondary trigger to release the hammer.
What trips the trigger and fires it is actually a small secondary trigger.
Although this innovation wasn't universally loved, it was a groundbreaking design for its time. The inclusion of one of the first ever functional safeties, an ingenious slide that prevents accidental discharge, adds another layer of ingenuity to this already fascinating piece of history. With only about 23,000 of these revolvers ever made, their rarity, combined with the exceptional condition of these particular guns, makes them highly desirable. While typical models might sell for $1,000 to $1,200, these guns, with their almost flawless finish, could command much more.
These guns, because of the condition, would retail for about $3,000 a piece.
Oh, really? Wow.
A guest brought in a stunning piece of history, his great-great-grandfather's Confederate cavalry jacket passed down through generations. Discovered in the 1970s, it was tucked away in an old trunk in a backyard shed, along with family papers that helped trace its origins. The jacket belonged to a soldier from Glen Springs, South Carolina, who served in E Company of the South Carolina Cavalry during the Civil War.
Died at Adams Run, which is not far from Charleston, dysentery in camp. Towards the end of the war.
What sets this jacket apart? First, its gold trim immediately marks it as cavalry wear. Infantry had blue and artillery had red.
And it's a short jacket because on horseback you didn't need all that extra cloth to carry around.
These thoughtful details make the jacket not just a piece of clothing, but a valuable historical artifact. A particularly fascinating feature is the buttons.
They're actually made in Waterbury, Connecticut by the Scoville Manufacturing Company, which sounds odd on a Confederate coat, but right before the Civil War broke out, they shipped a lot of buttons to the southern states, and these are South Carolina buttons.
Featuring the palmetto tree and the state motto, Animis opibusque parati, these buttons are a direct link to South Carolina's past. The belt and buckle, likely made in Chicopee, Massachusetts, add another layer to the jacket's remarkable story. Crafted from jean wool, a mix of wool and cotton, the jacket was a more affordable alternative to pure wool, yet still durable enough for battle. Inside, the lining is boldly patterned, reflecting the practical design choices of the time. The balloon sleeves are another key feature, a characteristic of early Civil War coats before they were replaced with more fitted designs. The appraiser gives the masterpiece a value.
In today's market, should be insured for $30,000.
Wow. Pretty nice.
Imagine holding a piece of history that bridges the past to the present. A World War I aircraft insignia given directly to a soldier by a fighter race after a dramatic crash. This rare artifact was passed down by the guest's grandfather, who was the mechanic on the plane. After the crash, the ace handed him the insignia, a moment captured in a powerful photograph of the two men together. The aircraft itself was a Samson II observation plane from the 258th Aero Squadron, known for its lightweight wooden frame and fabric skin.
It's a wooden airplane, generally a spruce frame that's covered with what they call a doped fabric, meaning that it's painted with something that makes it very taut and resistant to dings and scratches.
Though these planes weren't designed for combat, they were highly vulnerable to anti-aircraft fire, which is how the crash occurred. The cut insignia is a testament to the unique history of these planes, marking the bond between two men during a pivotal moment of the war. With excellent provenance and a direct link to both the ace and the aircraft, this piece is more than just memorabilia. It's a rare collectible from World War I aviation. Today, this insignia is valued at around $10,000 to $12,000, a reflection of its historical importance and premium condition.
We need to put an insurance value on this item for $10,000 to $12,000.
Wow, we'll never sell it.
While the guest made it clear it would never be for sale, it stands as an incredible reminder of a time long past, preserved for generations to come. Imagine holding a Colt revolver that may have been part of the Battle of Little Bighorn, a defining moment in American history. This guest inherited the gun from his grandfather, an antique gun collector, and after doing his own research, he became convinced it's a Custer gun, one of the revolvers issued to the 7th Cavalry. Produced between 1873 and 1876, these revolvers were part of a batch sent to the 7th Cavalry, and the serial number on this one falls right within that range.
This single action is within the 5,000 serial range. So many of the guns that are between 4,500 and just around 7,500 are considered in those batches that were shipped to the 7th Cavalry.
While many Colt single-action revolvers were made, the ones issued to Custer's men are especially valuable. This one has the distinct cartouche of O.W. Ainsworth, a key inspector of those early guns. However, the gun had a few parts replaced, like the backstrap and cylinder, which were restamped, making it harder to prove its direct connection to the battle.
The cylinders were also stamped with the serial number. And here we have the remnants of what appears to be a 7 and a 9. Which doesn't match the serial numbers on the rest of the gun.
Despite these issues, the appraiser valued the revolver at $5,000 to $8,000 at auction.
Its problems that it would fetch somewhere around $5,000 to $8,000.
Oh, wow, okay.
That's pretty good, again, because you almost have half a gun there.
Though if it were fully original, it could fetch as much as $20,000 to $40,000. If it were ever proven to have been part of the Battle of Little Bighorn, its value could soar to $250,000 or more. It's a fascinating piece of the past, with a story still waiting to be fully uncovered. This remarkable gun once belonged to Emile Hesnard, who traveled from France to the Black Hills of South Dakota around 1882 during the Gold Rush. He likely purchased the gun upon arriving, and it stands as a rare piece from that era. What makes the gun truly special is its conversion from a percussion to a cartridge model, a significant advancement in firearm technology at the time.
And you can see that with the type of hammer that it has, and the fact that right here it has a loading gig.
Okay.
You can easily spot this upgrade with the unique hammer design and loading gig. The gun also features an engraved naval battle scene commemorating a key battle from the Mexican-American War, adding historical value. Likely dating back to around 1870, the firearm is already a collector's gem. However, the real treasure lies in the original holster that comes with it. This holster, a California Slim Jim pattern, is extremely rare, with its shape perfectly matching the gun's design. The recurved features and decorations, influenced by California and Mexican styles, further highlight its authenticity and craftsmanship.
These type of decorations, which is a little bit California, a little bit Mexican from the influence of the Spanish here in California.
Holsters from this period are scarce, making this combination of guns and holsters even more exceptional. At auction, this piece would likely fetch a good amount.
At auction, you'd probably be looking in the vicinity of about $5,000 to $7,000 for this piece.
Okay.
It is not only a rare antique from the late 1800s, but also a fascinating piece of history, once designed for personal protection during a turbulent time in Chicago. The little pistol originally belonged to the guest's great-grandfather and was later inherited by their grandfather. Initially mistaken for a tool, it sat in a toolbox until it was discovered by another family member who realized it was actually a palm pistol. These types of pistols, made by the Chicago Arms Company, were produced in limited quantities.
We made about 13,000. A little less than 13,000 of them.
With only around 13,000 units made. Among them, fewer than 1,000 had a blue finish, and this particular one is finished in nickel. Some models also featured mother-of-pearl pads or lacked the rear thumb pad, but this one is the most common version. The gun operates with a rotary system, having 7 chambers that must be loaded individually, and it fires a 32 short rimfire cartridge that is no longer made. Its condition is remarkable.
It's got matching serial numbers on the case and on the cover. That's important because if for some reason it was replaced, collectors like to have matching numbers.
This palm-action gun, designed for personal protection, was produced around the late 1890s to early 1900s, likely seeing use during the turbulent times in Chicago. Given its well-preserved condition, original finish, and intact grips, this antique gun could easily fetch a good amount.
A gun like this would retail at a gun show easily $2,000.
Wow.
A hidden treasure from the Civil War, this Confederate sword is a priceless piece of history with a shocking value. A guest brought in a rare Confederate sword that once belonged to their great-great-grandfather. This sword holds deep significance for the family, as it was passed down through generations, along with stories of his time during the Civil War, particularly around the city of Mobile. The sword is engraved with his name, making it even more special and personal.
Somewhere along the line, we lost the top half of the scabbard.
Okay.
On the bright side, that can be addressed. That's not a killer.
On closer inspection, the appraiser pointed out something even more remarkable. The sword also bears the mark of Bissonnet.
He was an engraver, jeweler, and etched sword blades in Mobile.
Bissonnet was known for his exceptional craftsmanship, and the intricate engraving on this sword is a testament to his skill. The engraving is not just a small inscription, it's beautifully etched and runs down the length of the blade, stating that the sword was presented to the ancestor, along with a mention of the people who gifted it, making this sword even more historical. This Confederate sword, made in Mobile before 1865, has a brass guard with CS for authenticity. Despite some wear, it was valued highly.
This is a sword that I would insure for $30,000.
Seriously? $30,000? Oh, wow.
The guest realized it needed to be stored somewhere safer. This revolver, dating back to the 1850s, holds a rich history and could be worth more than you'd expect. The guest recounted the discovery of a Colt 3rd Model Dragoon revolver in a trunk left behind by their late father.
My father, he was kind of a hoarder, and he had a little trunk. He never let us kids into it.
Who had a penchant for hoarding and hiding various items. The revolver was a complete mystery to the guest, who did not know its origins, only that it had been inherited from their father. The appraiser quickly identified the revolver as a Colt 3rd Model Dragoon, manufactured between 1851 and 1861, with a serial number indicating it was made in the 1850s, likely around 1855. This model was significant in Colt's history, a company that initially faced challenges, but gained success after moving to Hartford and collaborating with Eli Whitney Jr.
If I had it at auction, I think I would put somewhere around $2,500 to $3,500 on it.
Well, good.
The appraiser pointed out the revolver's 6-shot capacity, black powder design, and percussion mechanism, although it exhibited some wear, including a cracked grip and a missing screw. What caught the appraiser's attention the most was a piece of wood lodged in the revolver. This component, known as the wedge, is crucial for securing the barrel to the cylinder pin.
What's interesting about wood, though, is wood will decay over a period of time. So we're quite lucky that this piece of wood has stood the test of time and kept this revolver together.
Oh, wow.
Despite the revolver's less than ideal condition, characterized by a deep brown rust patina, it still possessed considerable value. The appraiser estimated that it could sell for.
I would put somewhere around $2,500 to $3,500 on it.
Well, good. That's good to know.
A remarkable piece of history unfolded as an appraiser examined a collection tied to Madeleine, a former member of the French resistance. She had risked everything to help downed British pilots escape occupied France before being captured on October 31st, 1942. For 6 months, she endured imprisonment near Paris at Frasnes, a facility where her prominent military lineage may have spared her immediate execution.
Madeleine was from a very prominent military family in France, so the Germans knew her, which is possibly why she survived the first 6 months.
Eventually, she was transferred to Mauthausen and later Ravensbrück, the concentration camp from which she was ultimately liberated. After the war, Charles de Gaulle personally awarded her medals in recognition of her bravery. Among the artifacts presented was a small doll, crafted within Mauthausen using concentration camp uniform material.
In Mauthausen, we don't know who did the doll, but they did work making socks for the German soldiers, of course, and Madeleine took great pride in making lousy socks.
Madeleine, who had once been forced to knit socks for German soldiers, proudly making them as poorly as possible, kept this doll hanging on a nail in her living room for 2 decades. The appraiser, struck by the authenticity and rarity of the items, emphasized the demand for genuine artifacts, as many on the market are fraudulent. Well-documented pieces like these, with clear provenance, hold immense historical value.
And when you really think about it, what could be a bigger slap in the face of the people who have survived this stuff, that not only is this stuff viewed as a commodity, but there are people making fakes and forgeries of it.
Right.
Given the collection's rich history and strong documentation, they are of great value.
I would estimate a group like this being worth somewhere in the neighborhood of $7,000 to $10,000.
A sword with a possible connection to George Washington. Now that's a family heirloom worth talking about. Handed down through generations, this silver-hilted dress sword was believed to have belonged to
Sarah Bloomfield Spencer Evans moved to the Felicianas in the Spanish land grants in the early 1800s, and I've since owned it down through the family.
Colonel Oliver Spence, a Revolutionary War officer who served under Washington himself. His descendant, now its custodian, shared stories passed down through the family, claiming the sword was a personal gift from the first president of the United States. While definitive proof of Washington's involvement remains elusive, the appraiser confirmed that Spencer was indeed a prominent figure in the war, having fought in the battles of Monmouth and Brandywine. The sword's craftsmanship suggested American origins, likely the work of John Bailey, a New York swordsmith active during the Revolution, an artisan known for making weapons for Washington himself. Even without direct evidence of Washington's gift, the sword's historical significance was undeniable. As an American silver-hilted weapon from the Revolutionary era, its base value was estimated between $5,000 and $7,000. However, factoring in Colonel Spencer's distinguished service and the sword's well-documented lineage, its auction estimate soared.
If I had this auction, I would easily put it at around $10,000 to $15,000.
Very nice. That's wonderful.
A sword linked to royalty and featuring an inscription that pays tribute to a commander, there are few items that embody such an intriguing mix of history and artistry. This particular weapon, inherited through generations, was once thought to have been picked up from the battlefield at Verdun, but its intricate design and pristine condition suggested otherwise. The appraiser identified it as an early 19th century British sword, likely crafted in Birmingham by Woolley, Dutton, Deacon and Johnson,
which were well-known makers during the period, and it's from the early 19th century.
Its blade, decorated with exquisite gilt and blue engravings, bore the cipher of King George III, adding to its prestige.
These are gilt brass mounts. These are engraved. This is certainly his coat of arms.
On the reverse, an inscription revealed its true significance. It had been presented in 1805 by the loyal Crayford Volunteers to their esteemed Commandant John Henry Taylor, as a testament to his dedication to discipline and leadership. With its fine detailing, gilt brass mounts and clear provenance, the appraiser placed its auction estimate.
I think at auction, conservatively, this would bring somewhere around $20,000 to $30,000.
Gee.
Is that a good place to start?
That's a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
A sheriff's revolver, passed down through 4 generations, holds a legacy as powerful as its craftsmanship. This Colt Police Positive revolver, once carried by Joe Clyde Musgrave, a Bexar County, Texas sheriff, is a remarkable relic of law enforcement history.
He was, as I mentioned, a sheriff with Bexar County in Texas, and unfortunately he was killed in the line of duty.
Musgrave, who was tragically killed in the line of duty in 1934, likely carried this firearm for years before his passing. Manufactured in the 1920s, this revolver is a factory-engraved, nickel-plated masterpiece designed specifically for law enforcement. The original Colt factory engraving enhances its aesthetic appeal, covering the frame with intricate patterns. The revolver retains most of its original nickel finish, a rarity that adds to its collectible value. While collectors often prefer factory original grips, this piece features a custom-engraved Mexican silver grip.
For the piece? Well, I'm not sure. My understanding is that it was engraved in Mexico, that was done to commemorate his time.
The firearm comes with its original holster and Musgrave's law enforcement badge, further elevating its historical significance. Despite the grip replacement, all elements align to create a highly desirable collector's item. With its provenance, craftsmanship and connection to a fallen lawman, this extraordinary revolver is highly valued.
This revolver and holster and the badge at auction, I would think would bring somewhere around $10,000 to $12,000.
Wow, fantastic.
Imagine holding a map that was once in the hands of General Robert E. Lee, a map that helped make decisions during the most important battles of the American Civil War. This amazing piece of history, carried by General Richard Stoddert Ewell, one of Lee's most trusted commanders, was passed down through generations, eventually making its way into the current owner's family.
General Ewell was very important to Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee was a man that had a small circle of generals that he trusted with his life. And Ewell was one of those generals.
What started as a childhood show-and-tell item turned into one of the most valuable historical finds to be appraised. This map, showing key places like Richmond and the major Seven Pines and Gaines Mill battles, isn't just a map. It's a rare look at how one of history's top military leaders thought and planned. Robert E. Lee's signature on the back of the map, along with ink markings showing it was used by him, gives anyone who sees it chills. The worn condition of the map only makes it more real.
Did Robert E. Lee look at this map and think, what do I do? It's just amazing.
Along with the map is a photograph of Robert E. Lee, signed by him, a photo that was sent to many people who admired him after the war. The value of this priceless set, because of its deep connection to such famous figures, is estimated generously.
It wouldn't surprise me on the right day, if it were to go to an auction, for this piece to bring $100,000.
Oh my gosh. Well, my brother will be excited.
The photograph itself can sell for about $5,000, but together the set represents a real piece of American history. Firearms have played a crucial role in history, not just as tools of war and defense, but as symbols of craftsmanship and innovation. Exhibiting exceptional craftsmanship, these British double-barrel percussion pistols date back to 1846 and feature intricate silver mounts with hallmarks confirming their origin. Designed for hunters atop elephants, Howder pistols provided both power and convenience with their large bore and compact structure. Adorning the grips, lion mask butts add a striking visual element, further emphasizing the pistol's regal and historical appeal. Unlike many, these retain original blued hammers and patina. Hallmarked and mounted in silver, every detail of these pistols reflects the quality and craftsmanship of mid-19th century British gunsmithing. Resting in their original case, they also feature belt hooks, a practical addition for securing them while riding. Despite lacking a visible gunsmith's signature, these firearms stand out due to their historical context and remarkable preservation. Carrying a fascinating history, they were once likely used by hunters navigating the dangers of the Indian wilderness. The appraiser, after witnessing the condition of the firearms, remarked,
I think a current auction market value would be about $15,000 to $20,000.
Oh. Really?
Mm-hmm.
You need an eye for history to recognize the true value of these rare Southern-made Derringer-style pistols. Renowned for their Southern craftsmanship, these Derringer-style pistols hold both historical significance and collector appeal. Bearing the mark of Schneider & Co., Memphis, Tennessee, they trace back to a likely production in Nashville under Frank Bitterlich. Elegantly designed with flat grips and spur triggers, their distinct features set them apart from traditional Derringers. Marked with consecutive serial numbers, the pair remains in remarkably complete condition, free from typical wear and damage. Collectors prize Southern-made weaponry, making these an exceptional find for those interested in 19th century firearms. Matched sets of antique pistols, especially from scarce makers, command significant attention in the auction market. Had they been standard Philadelphia Derringers, their value would have been considerably lower despite their fine craftsmanship. Following observation of the pistol's state, the appraiser said,
As a pair, they're a pair that would retail for about $10,000.
No kidding.
Step back in time with a collection of Scottish treasures, where each item tells a story of craftsmanship, heritage, and battle-hardened tradition. The 18th century Scottish flintlock pistol stands out, reflecting the intricate craftsmanship of gunsmith Thomas Caddell. Caddell's craftsmanship shines in the engravings and functional belt clip. Equally impressive is the 19th century Scottish dirk, which served as a ceremonial weapon for the 79th Highlanders. With its elaborate basket weave carvings and thistle motifs, the dirk embodies Scotland's military history and cultural pride. Connected to the dirk, the top of a sporran completes the ensemble, tying the piece to a traditional Highland dress. Engraved with names of famous battles, the dirk highlights military campaigns from Waterloo to Egypt. At the pommel, a citrine stone adds an elegant touch. Upon observing the gun's state, the appraiser said,
So total you have here really something like $8,000 to $11,000 at auction.
Wow,
A great
that's
Scottish
amazing.
group of items. I'm glad you brought them in.
Yeah, I'm glad I did too.
A remarkable piece of history, this Civil War-era rifle has been in one family's possession since at least 1912. What makes it truly fascinating is its dual identity. Originally manufactured in New Haven, Connecticut by the Whitney Company, founded by Eli Whitney, the inventor of the cotton gin.
It's actually the same company that was owned by Eli Whitney, who's credited with inventing the cotton gin.
Stamped with So Carolina on the stock, this musket was part of a special contract between Whitney and the state of South Carolina, likely dating back to 1810. It may have been among the 800 to 1,000 rifles produced under a formal agreement in 1816, or one already in South Carolina at the time. The presence of this marking transforms it from a standard-issue firearm into a historically significant artifact with a traceable lineage. Unlike many rifles that have been aggressively restored, this one remains in attic mint condition, untouched apart from its conversion from flintlock to percussion, a common practice during the Civil War to modernize outdated weaponry.
That affects the value substantially because people like the guns as they left the factory.
The percussion conversion, featuring a simple hand-forged hammer, aligns with Confederate modifications, further deepening its historical value. Ordinarily, a rifle of this type without distinguishing marks would be valued
between $6,000 and $8,000.
What?
$6,000 and $8,000?
However, the South Carolina engraving elevates it to a new level of desirability among collectors. Have you ever seen something so remarkable as this Winchester Model 1894 rifle, a firearm with a history as compelling as its craftsmanship? Manufactured in 1896, this rifle is not just any standard production piece, it was a custom-ordered firearm from the Winchester factory. Unlike typical models, it features a half-round, half-octagonal barrel and a half-button magazine, making it a rarer variant. These specifications suggest the original owner had specific preferences, like prioritizing weight reduction and handling efficiency. One of the most intriguing aspects of this rifle is the engraved medallion, reading Buffalo Bill's Wild West. While the plaque's authenticity remains uncertain, the gun itself aligns perfectly with the time period of Buffalo Bill's famous traveling show.
It was manufactured in 1896, which makes the gun an antique.
Okay.
Because any firearms manufactured before 1899 are antique, and therefore not subject to federal regulations.
All right.
Raising the possibility that it was once part of that legendary frontier performance. Winchester rifles were commonly used in the Wild West show, making it essential to trace its provenance through factory records. However, the rifle itself aligns with the era of Buffalo Bill's legendary show, leaving open the possibility of a fascinating provenance. Originally purchased at an estate auction for $900, this exceptional rifle now holds an estimated value 10 to 20 times higher than that.
I would say that it would add at least $15,000 to $20,000.
Oh, wow.
But you have a lot of work ahead of you in trying to determine that.
Nothing is as precious and historically significant as this Confederate cavalry officer's sword, a rare artifact crafted with exceptional detail and superior craftsmanship. Manufactured by William J. McElroy of Makron, Georgia, this sword dates back to the American Civil War and has been meticulously preserved through generations. Unlike common reproductions, this piece comes with a documented family lineage, enhancing its authenticity and value. McElroy, a renowned craftsman and businessman, was known for his bold branding, prominently engraving his name on the blade.
He made swords, he made buckles, and he was very good at branding. He put his name bold on the blade.
This particular sword is a cavalry officer's variant, distinguished by its sand-cast guard with intricate floral patterns, a design feature absent in enlisted men's swords. The wooden handle, wrapped in fine leather and secured with a single strand of copper wire, reflects the high-quality materials used in its construction.
The fancy and ornate etching all the way down the blade.
Right.
And the etching is what sets McElroy off from all the other makers.
While most etchings from this period are faint, requiring careful lighting to be seen, the detailing on this blade is deep, vivid, and unmistakable, making it one of McElroy's finest works. Even more remarkable, this sword retains its original matching scabbard, which carries the same elaborate etchings found on the blade. This rarity dramatically increases its historical and monetary value. As one of the rarest Confederate swords in existence, this artifact is not just a collector's item, it is a priceless piece of history.
If you notice, we have W.J. McElroy, Macon, Georgia, for William J. McElroy.
Okay.
He was in business before the war.
A piece of the Old West, once carried by a Montrose County sheriff, has been passed down through the family. His great-grandson now sat with an appraiser, eager to find out what these old guns were really worth. Alongside the sheriff's revolver was another, his wife's.
My great-grandpa.
And he was the actual sheriff?
He was the sheriff for a few years until his wife made him quit because it was dangerous.
Okay.
A worn black and white photo helped bring the story to life. The sheriff stood tall with a thick mustache, a man who once kept law and order. His Colt single-action revolver is a .38-40 caliber with a 4.75-inch barrel.
The price on it is about $3,500.
But the real star of the show was the Colt Model 1877 double-action revolver. Known as the Thunder for its .41 caliber, it wasn't just any gun. It was factory engraved by Helfricht, one of Colt's master engravers. This wasn't light decoration either. It had rare C engraving, covering nearly the entire gun from the barrel to the frame. With its pearl grips and matching Western gun belt and holster, it was a true piece of history. Still holding 97% of its original nickel finish, the revolver alone was worth $15,000. The holster, another $3,000. Together with their history and near-perfect condition, the set was valued at a fair price. The great-grandson, clearly shocked, could only sit back and take it all in.
The history in the set is $20,000.
That's pretty amazing.
Some family stories are almost too incredible to believe. A woman brought in a Colt revolver, explaining that it had been passed down through generations. According to a letter written in 1923, the gun originally belonged to his great-great-grandfather, gifted by a close friend.
And this friend of his was, according to this letter, a bodyguard for President Lincoln.
Even more astonishing, the letter claimed that this man fired at John Wilkes Booth the night of the assassination, possibly even breaking his leg. The appraiser examined the revolver, identifying it as a Colt Model 1849 pocket revolver, still in its original case with all its accessories. Checking the serial number, he confirmed it was made in 1862, meaning it could have been around during the assassination. However, history tells a different story. Lincoln had only one bodyguard that night, a police officer named John Parker, who left his post before Booth entered. The Secret Service didn't even exist yet, and no records mentioned Fletcher Budd, the supposed shooter. Despite the uncertainty, the revolver held value on its own.
At auction, I would estimate this pistol is worth about $2,000 to $3,000.
Oh, wow.
It could hold a great value of $20,000 if the story could somehow be proven. The guest, both fascinated and skeptical, left with a deeper appreciation for his family history, whether fact or legend.